Welcome back to Black Lotus Buds. I'm Kevin.
And I'm Michael. Thanks for joining us.
We're kicking off our 18th episode on the channel where we're talking all things trading cards. And today we'll be discussing spring cleaning, the green and blue guild in Magic the Gathering known as Simic Combine, and unexpected trading cards. And today, Michael, I hope you've got your Easter basket full of treats nearby because we've got something sweet and something sour to dive into. And that is going to be spring cleaning and a little bit more of the collector app. I wanted to ask you, as a passionate collector of trading cards, and you being the one who's well-versed in the collectability of all the cards, how does one, either who's been in this for, many years, a couple decades, from the beginning of Pokemon or the beginning of Magic even, or just a collector of cards from the last couple years, how does one condense their collection and let go of any cards? Have you done it?
They're spring cleaning their collection.
Cleaning their collection.
I have kind of done it once, and then I'm actually... Dude, I've been thinking about doing this. I didn't think of it as spring cleaning, but I'll share the first time I ever did it. It might have happened twice, I think. And I honestly regretted it both times. So one time, it was when I was 10 years ago, man. I had moved a bunch. It wasn't into Pokemon. I had my binder and stuff, but I had all these bulk cards, and most of them were base set Pokemon, all the original stuff, man, in great condition. And at the time, there were some options to sell it, but they didn't have a lot of value. And I think I threw them out. Like, I might have sold them as bulk, but even if I did, it was negligible money. And the second time I did it, I was feeling like the hobby wasn't immature. The hobby was immature, and that I felt pressure like I should be maturing without realizing how much it meant to me. And I got rid of some stuff. I kept all my best stuff, but those, I think, are instances of the wrong way to spring clean. And now, we've been doing this podcast. I've been getting deeper and deeper into collecting cards. It's been a really bright spot in my life. And I've been looking at doing exactly what you're talking about, which is kind of condensing the collection. And the first things I did was I have my current current interests in collections, right? So I have one that's just all these pools and current things, and I record them as I'm ripping packs. I have one binder that are all my Pokemon collections. So it's all the art cards, it's some Charizards, and it's one of my favorite cards that I want to collect one of every one of. It's called a Chi-Yu. And so I collect those three things. I also have a little side collection of sorcery where I collect all the avatars, which are kind of like the commanders of sorcery. Oh, cool. And yeah, so I just have my little collections those are things I'm actively doing. But now, to your question, I have all this bulk, I have all these extra cards, and I'm feeling like, maybe I should be doing something. So what I've kind of resolved to do is I want to put all of my hits, like anything non-bulk, I want to put them in the collector app as kind of like, it's not in my collection, right? Like, it's not in any of those ones I'm actively collecting. It's in a box where, I didn't have any other way, any other way to do it than put it on a shelf or put it in the box. So you put it in the box. You can't, card up every piece of bulk and everything. But if I put them in the collector app, I'm going to see their value, right? And now I have the option with my bulk cards. You can sell, I know this is true for Pokemon. There are shops that will buy them. They'll either buy them by the pound or like fractions of a penny, and they go resell them. But, you can have a ton of cards and you maybe get enough for a booster box. So that's one option. I'm going to keep them, A, because I like to hoard, B, because I made the organizer so good, and C, because I want to do competitive stuff later down the line. And so for Magic, I need multiples,
Yes.
But with the rares, I'll have them in the collector app and take Magic, for example. Like, if it's not, if it's a card that's worth, maybe a decent amount of money, but to me, it's just like, junk. I have the option to, like, probably put them on lots on eBay, or share them and give them away. I do some of that stuff too. But if I was spring cleaning my collection, I would make sure I have my display collection or my personal, the sorcery cards, they're in a sorcery box, but they're right next to my desk here. So it's like I know I'm collecting them. That's what that box is for. They're, the box is on display. I can show people if I want. I never do that, but it's an option. But the rest, the ones in that box, I'm personally keeping for competitive. But if not, I'd probably sell them as bulk. And then the rares, I think it's a good idea to put them in the collector app and watch them grow and sell ones you really don't want. And in that way, you can kind of recoup costs. And also you're sharing. Like, there's someone out there that wants that card that, it'll do better in their hands than the box. But that's just me. That's my plan. It's very slow. I put in my Magic the Gathering Mythics. I think it was like $100 total.
Nice.
And it's still a tough choice. Like, that's what I'm doing with my extra, so I can like monitor it and feel good about it. But I want to keep my bulk. I even spent a lot to, get those boxes organized and customized, and they look pretty nice. But for the regular Joe, I would probably sell the bulk or give them to someone you like that makes decks, and then collector app those rarer cards. And personally, the last aside here is, man, and please understand, I'm just coming up with this off the top of my head.
I know, what a well thought out answer. Thank you. Keep going.
Well, it's like, yeah, it's crazy you asked this, because I was kind of like trying to come up with an answer to what am I doing with all this stuff. And the last thing I would say as an aside is keep some of your best valued cards, because if you always sell, because like in the collector app, I have a few, you recognized them, I think, when I was talking about the mythic values. I was like, I have this one that's $20, and so it's tempting to kind of sell your top card, because that's the big bucks. Like, boom, you can go, make $20. But personally, I would try to keep some of those top dogs in games like Pokemon or Magic, where you can keep like that value if the market goes up. So I'm basically saying, like, sell your second tier. Now, in Pokemon, that's more straightforward. These cards are desired because they look good. They're not in competitive. Magic's a little trickier. You have to use your own discretion, because, what's hot 1 minute might actually be a really good thing to sell, because if they ban it or something like that, or the dynamic of a deck changes, the competitive demand might change its value. So you play it by ear, but personally, I want to keep some of my top dog stuff so I can watch it grow, and then I'm taking like that middle range of those rare cards, and I'm gonna sell them on eBay.
Nice.
Did you have an answer to this question?
Well, I wanted to get your thoughts. I had recently let go of a relatively large amount of cards, a couple hundred. It was like over 500, but I was able to confidently let go of them because I actually bought a pretty large number of cards in bulk and sifted through what I found to be cards that I wanted to keep. And then the rest of them, I just kept thinking, what am I going to do with these? Are these even worth me building a deck with and trying to repurpose in a way like that? And I just decided it might be better to kind of, to your point earlier, just essentially give them away for really cheap to somebody who wants a bulk collection, and they want to essentially do what I did with a lot of cards, and that is just go through, find cards that you're going to want to keep for your own decks, or something that might be valuable that you know of, or just something along those lines where you're just feeling like there is the ability for me to get some value in what I want to have, and then look at the rest as something that I can do away with, and not fill up my binders, which I want to keep as organized as those boxes that you have. And that's just got me thinking I'd like to pick your brain and see what your advice might be, since you've been doing this a little bit longer.
I
So,
think that's a really good take too, because it's like basically I committed to, you know what I mean? I bought those boxes where I can kind of organize. I was very particular. I like arts and crafts them a little bit,
mhm.
but it's because I already had that plan. Like I wanted to do the Pokemon separate, and I wanted to. I knew I was well. I at least thought I was gonna do Magic much deeper, and I think I am now. I think that's more clear. Um, but that I was planning the same thing for Magic, so I could separate them out. And I think for someone like you, that you don't, your strategy is like just get rid of it and just keep up to date. I think that's also a really clean way to do it, because now, like me, I got to be honest, it's a chore. It's a chore, man. I literally spend days and days where I could be outside getting sunlight, or hanging out with friends and getting healthy relationships, and I'm like, no, I'm gonna spend 12 hours organizing these cards. Um, so if that's not your cup of tea, I think your
Stay on it.
strat is really good too.
Yeah.
Where you're like, I'm just, I have what I really like and enjoy, and I'm just gonna get rid of the rest as efficiently as possible. And there's that, and I think all the levels in between. But I think that's good. Both are good.
Sweet. Well, thanks for sharing, and hopefully our listeners got something out of that because I sure did.
Yeah, please quote me when you write your book. Like, please reference.
on how to dispose of your cards ethically. Well,
Yeah.
it is time, Michael, for our next segment where we're going to be doing what we always do. We take two cards in the competitive space of Magic the Gathering and pit them against each other. It is time for this or that. With both cards in hand, which would you play? Once again, we are going to be coming from Tarkir Dragonstorm, bringing two cards from that set and that box. And tonight, this is going to be Mistrise Village, which is a non-basic land card featuring a moss-covered village at the base of a mountain. And its ability, other than using it for an island, is spend one island and tap this card. The next spell you cast this turn can't be countered. So that's this card tonight. That tonight is Dalkovan Enchantment. Another non-basic land card featuring a massive tent-filled base, also at the base of a mountain, or a mountain range. And its ability, other than using it for a plains, is spend 2 colorless and 1 plains and tap this card for the ability that reads, whenever you attack this turn, create 2 1/1 red warrior creature tokens that are tapped and attacking. Sacrifice them at the beginning of the next end step. So, Michael, a little bit different approach than we've seen in the past where we pit 2 creatures against each other. Tonight we're talking about lands, and these lands might not find themselves in the same deck, but if you had them both in your hand or both in your strategy, which do you play?
I have a question.
Please.
Mistrise Village. The spell you cast can't be countered. Does that mean ward? Like, if I'm trying to cast a spell on a ward creature, does this now override that ward and allow me to cast it? Or does ward still counter it?
No, so the ward is as far as targeting a spell. So a ward cost has to be paid.
Okay. So that's like just flat out.
Yeah,
But
this is just like for
there's no like enchantment or instant that would override it.
there's no enchantment or instant that can override that the ability of this card tonight, Mistrise Village, where once you spend the island, tap that card, the next spell you cast this turn can't be countered. Your opponent will not be able to stop anything that comes out of your hand that you're playing after you do that ability of that card.
Well, these cards in hand, which do I choose? This is tricky because you know that I've been playing with a red deck and ramping with tokens. So that one, having 2 attacking creatures pop out there would be really nifty with that card I'm using. It's I think it's a legendary orc where it doesn't allow creatures to be sacrificed at the end of the step. So this would be a powerful card, but when we're pinning these together in general terms, I'm drooling over the next spell you cast can't be countered. And that's from all my reps in Arena over the weekend. I finally passed the tutorial and played a bunch. And, thank you for your help too, teaching me. But, dude, having a spell I know will be cast is just so valuable that, dude, I'm going with this, the Mysterized Village.
Beautiful choice. I was really trying to tempt you into the Dalkovan encampment.
I can see it was working.
I actually had a different land card to pit them against each other because they were going to be a little bit more even, but I figured, why not throw that one in there? And, there's actually nothing wrong with the encampment card that tonight, because at the end of the day, there's strategies that work with it, just like the deck that you're bringing up, which was a red, white, and black deck. Very heavily based off of mobilizing creatures and creating these warrior tokens that if you can keep them alive and they don't disappear, wow, how incredible is that? Because this land can produce 2 more to add to your army. But overall, as far as mana cost and this land, that 1 mana, or technically 2, because this land, Mysterized Village, would also have to be tapped, but to prevent your opponent from screwing up your next spell, especially if they have blue lands or if they've got treasure tokens where they might be able to play a blue spell, this tonight is going to be the hands down winner. It just prevents your opponent from crushing you pretty much early game to late game. And now that you've played Magic a healthy amount in the last few days and weeks, Michael, pre-combat, you may not cast any spells. And this is going to be that card that can really help you show your opponent all your land being untapped during combat, see if they try to pull anything fancy, and then after combat, now you still have land to say, okay, let me now conclude my turn in my second May phase by spending an island, tapping this mana, and then the next spell I cast cannot be countered, knowing that that's going to show up on the battlefield. So I agree with you completely tonight. You didn't get fooled by it, but again, nothing wrong with Dalkovan. I would just argue that Mistrise definitely a stronger card, especially with that mana cost. So solid choice, and great job. I'm happy that you've been playing Magic, man. How has your experience been lately?
Oh my god, dude! I mean, I first of all was addicted.
Tell everybody.
So all right. So what happened was I don't know who reached out to who, but the time came where it was time for me to build a deck, and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I wanted to play Magic, and I was like, Kevin, just build me a deck. And I'm like, I don't know how I come across on the podcast, but I am very hard-headed and resistant to even help if it's not like done the way I want it. And that's just like, I don't know, it's a weird character trait. But I'm like, here it's a clean slate because I was like, I know nothing. I need your help. I need you to build me something I can go use because I don't know what I'm doing. And dude, he did just that. I wanted to base it off of these like red, white, and black cards. And then, Kevin took it from there and he split it. He's like, you need an enchantment, you need an instant, you need a variety. He said something like, I don't want to leave you out to dry. I have no idea exactly what that meant in regards to the balance of the deck. But I figured he knew, and, I can obviously trust that. I know he's built a lot of really good decks. So, after that, I just started playing, and I got past the tutorial, and keep in mind, I don't know what all these words mean. Despite talking about them for months now, it's like I forget, and I don't know what the cards are and the rules, and I'm making mistake after mistake, but I was learning, and as I started to learn, it just became more and more fun. And there's something that's, I think, essential, was that the deck you built me, in my strategy, it was like ramping red, mobilizing enemies, and just aggressive attacking. It's like a very favorite playstyle. Like I like glass cannon RPGs, and it's just like I like that aggression. But it also allowed me to really I don't really care about what the enemy is doing, because you got to keep in mind, I'm right out the tutorial. These are all new players anyway. And so I just focused on learning my deck and learning what all those words mean and how to do which card on what step. And then as I binged it like a day, and then the next day I just kept going, and so it's like a full weekend I'm doing this. But I began to learn my deck, and then once I learned my deck, now I'm like, okay, let's start picking up on this other stuff, and it's given me now enough depth through that experience that, dude, I'm just amped. Like this Mistrise Village, I'm like, damn it, there's a can't counter the spell. Like that would be so useful, and I can't use that in my deck because I don't need the island land. But it's like, still, just that even being out there, I've barely scratched the surface of this.
Yep.
I do wish, and I'll talk a little bit about this next podcast too, but I do wish I had a little more available access to mythics, and I made a little bit of a oopsie, because when Kevin built that deck for me, he did so and he left me a small supply of wild mythic and rares. And I got all the way, I think, through platinum, like the very bottom. I just breached platinum. But I mean, I felt like it was a lot, and I changed my deck around as I learned it, and a lot of positive changes, I think. But one of the things I did was I would get excited about a card that was a mythic. I'm like, this will work perfectly, and then I used it or got it, and then I was like, oh, this actually, it does work in this scenario, but not 90% of the other ones. So now I've used my mythic, my it's like a arena. If you don't know, it offers you these wild cards where you can just craft it into whatever card you can dream of. And so I kind of wasted them. So I do wish I had, like, I don't know, just triple to start. Like, I wish they just started you with... Yeah. But, if they did, then I would have used them still, and I would still want more. So it doesn't matter, really. But yeah, as you play, you unlock more. I've already got, I think, one rare, and I have some commons and uncommons I can still play with. But, dude, it's been a blast. Like, an absolute blast.
It was cool hearing that you were playing so much when you picked it up that first day, and then into the second day, and then I was like, okay, you got the itch just like I got, and
bro,
I didn't have
so
to.
Passionate. Like,
yeah,
like Kevin was trying to help me with my deck, and he's like, I want you to put this card in it, and I was like, no, this shit's like, I can't change my baby. Like, dude, I spent like 20 hours with this deck. I'm not ready to change it. So I went from like, I have no deck, I don't play competitive in any really card game, to like, bro, I can't. I've got a plan and a vision. Like,
yeah, your foot is like you're like looking for a brick to put on the gas pedal so you can just attend to everything else.
Yeah, and I think it's also like, it's just fun to be able to. I now have a new option. I'm also branching out in gaming in general, so now I'll just like throw up some Magic, play a couple matches. I can either take it real casual and just see, like, I wonder what deck I'll be against, or I can take it real serious and like deck build. But yeah, dude, addicted. Oh yeah, absolutely addicted.
You'll get into the deck building soon enough, but you'll probably have to start by amassing more of those wild cards that we can burn so fast. I'm glad you at least toy with different ideas and experimented and actually tried to change your deck to fit a little bit more about how you want it to play. That you'll always find that you might think you have the perfect deck, and then you'll play a match where somebody plays a card that screws everything up, and you're like, okay, I have to make sure that I can prevent that from happening again. And you might need to tweak your strategy a little bit, remove a couple cards, add a couple cards, or simply just say, let me just build an entirely different deck and see how I can use their strategy against them, or create a whole new concept. So it's a lot of fun. And once again, we bring up another guild tonight, which is the Simic Combine. So this deck, or guild, I should say, is the green and blue one in Magic the Gathering, also known as the Biomancers, where size and spells matter, Michael. Using magic to morph creatures and manipulate nature to create hybrid adaptations. The way I would describe this is quite literally growing weapons and armor versus building them. So mechanics in this guild Graft, Evolve, and Adapt are the main more notable ones. Adapt is adding a bunch of 1/1 counters to everything. And popular abilities of cards are going to be pretty much ramping. Of course, anytime you have green, you're going to be thinking ramping. Drawing cards, you're going to have counter spells, removal spells. This is all about growth, whether that's going to be adding 1/1 counters or just simply amassing an army of tokens and then using the horde of tokens against your opponent.
Now, what is ramping in like, how would you define ramping?
So ramping is a lot of the time going to be landfall, and landfall, you're going to see that italicized word on a considerable amount of cards in the game of Magic. You're pretty much trying to get more mana, more lands on the battlefield than your opponent. And that could also mean a mana dork, where, you're going to be playing a creature that can be tapped for mana, as the one that was thrown into your deck. Because if you have more mana than your opponent, quite simply, you're going to be able to cast larger spells and overpower them quicker. If you can get a massive creature on the battlefield 2 turns before they can play their massive creature on the battlefield, that could ultimately be the way that you win the game, because now you're putting the pressure on attacking them, forcing them to either block or take 5 damage, 6 damage, and if they take that a couple turns, you've cut their life in half. You're already winning the game and might win soon after. So when we say ramp is very much getting as much land on the battlefield as quickly as possible.
Okay.
And then taking that to be able to ramp your creatures and grow them. And this is like the perfect guild that embodies both. There's a card, Growth Spiral. It's 2 mana. I believe it's just 1 forest and 1 island. And it's perfect for landfall and drawing cards. It's like draw a card and then take a land in your hand and put it on the battlefield. That's huge for this strategy. There's other crazy good cards. One I asked you to look up here. It's an OP card. It doesn't necessarily fit this strategy, but it's called Ivy Gleeful Spell Thief. And I've actually got this card in front of me. It's a 2/1 creature with flying. Whenever a player casts a spell that targets only a single creature other than Ivy Gleeful Spell Thief, you may copy that spell. The copy targets Ivy. So anything that your opponent might be doing to build up their own strategy, you can be stealing from them and adding to your own creature with this card. For 2 mana, to have 2 power and be flying, it's pretty good. But that ability of it is just really powerful over many turns. If, they may not want to think that this is your bread and butter, so they may not kill this card. But if their cards are giving their creatures, +3/+3 until end of turn, well, now you can immediately have that card help your own Ivy Gleeful Spell Thief and, work against them. And that's a lot about what any type of deck with blue lands are going to be doing. It's trying to, counter your opponent's strategy as effectively as possible, which now in the competitive space. With this one, creatures are going to be aquatic and reptilian, also druids and wizards, humans, even, rogues or fairies, I guess, with just Ivy in front of me here. And then there's popular commanders in the deck, or, in the game itself. One is Adrex and Nev Twincasters. I had to bring that one up because it's just all about duplicating your tokens, which, anytime you can duplicate anything you're doing is going to be a huge problem to your opponent unless they can stop it. So that's a very powerful commander. Another one is Voral of the Hullclade. But the one that we're going to be looking at tonight is Oko, Thief of Crowns. And if you can kind of notice, Michael, some of these card names have thief in the name. And that's pretty much bringing up the point of Oko's +1 ability, which is target artifact or creature loses all abilities and becomes a green elk creature with base power and toughness 3/3. So what you're doing is like taking anything that you really need to just lose all of its abilities. Maybe the abilities of it are, it can be tapped for mana. It can be tapped to be sacrificed and do something else. So having the ability to prevent that from happening and just turning it into a 3/3 creature can be a very powerful play at any point in the game. And then on top of that, creating a food token, which is the +2 ability of this card, to get you to be able to get that -5 ability played faster. But the +2, creating a food token, that's just like, I think it's an artifact. And you can spend 2 mana, tap it, and sacrifice it, and gain 3 life. That can help some strategies if they're all about gaining life, or lifelink strategies. Or just, again, it's a token. So if you have other cards that are duplicating your tokens, well, for, just adding 2 loyalty counters to your Planeswalker, now you can create 2 food tokens for the price of 1. That's an amazing ability right there. So this is a pretty powerful card for 3 mana, and one that I didn't want to overlook. And, you maybe haven't seen too many green and blue decks. They're the opposite of your strategy.
That's crazy. Well, yeah, I just realized, because the only card I've ever seen, like the Legendary Planeswalker, or at least the ones that I know, is that the one in my deck, it's the Angel. But, I mean, she's expensive. She's like 5.
Elspeth.
So,
Yep.
Yeah, while I've been looking at that, this card, Oko, I'm kind of like thinking about it. And then you pointed out it's not even 3 of a specific. It's 1 is colorless.
Yeah.
So that's pretty crazy. And I've seen decks where that food token would be OP to even have 1 out there. So the fact that this guy gets a +2 for creating it is kind of dirty.
Yeah, if you can keep him alive, this Planeswalker, and use that create a food token ability, the first turn you play him, next turn you have him on the battlefield, you can literally use that -5 ability and still have him on the battlefield with just 1 loyalty counter after that. So, this is very much a quick deck like strategy where you're, as long as your opponent can't kill it. If they have red, then they might be able to deal it damage. If they have black, they might be able to get you to sacrifice it. But other than that, or white, you always have to throw in the fact that they might have an enchantment that banishes it, like Banishing Light. But it's meant to just be played, use an ability, one of those 2 at the top, and then the very next turn you're able to do its high cost ability, which would either destroy it or keep it barely alive, and then be able to continue to keep it out there, which is always what you want with the Planeswalker. It definitely shifts your opponent's attention to having to focus on killing it rather than dealing any damage to you as a player, which can definitely keep you alive in the game longer. But again, 3 mana, very powerful card, and wanted to make sure that it was, added into the context of the Simic Combine.
Yeah, they're neat cards. It's funny because they mean so much more now that I can think of them in terms of just my deck of against. That's the only really context, but it changes everything. Because, like, I see it now, and I'm like, oh, yeah, the hell with Oko. He seems really annoying. Like, because I'm thinking of him being against me. And, I don't know. It's fun.
Oh, yeah. It's good stuff.
Well, let's get into where, what, or why.
Ooh, why?
Let's see. That's a great question. The why is a thank you.
Ooh. The where?
The where was my own literal backyard.
Well, that leaves the what?
The what is a crayon drawing. I'm glad you left the what till the end, because it's like a nice little... Okay, so basically, we have this kid in the neighborhood, and I came home, and I get, like, pine cat litter, so they're huge bags, and I buy, like, 4 of them, so I don't have to go shopping. I just stow them away, and I have them. And I had a bunch of groceries, and this neighborhood kid, I don't know how old this little guy is, because I don't know, but I mean, like, between 4 and 7, like a little kid.
Yeah.
He just starts following me around, and like I'm literally unloading my stuff, and like I'm bringing it to my house, putting it in my house, and as I'm in my house, he's waiting Like, he understood not to come in, I guess, unless he was invited, which I wasn't looking to get into all that. So I just kept bringing in my groceries round by round. But as I get to the end, he follows me back, as a little kid does. He's like, telling me kid stuff about his life and his toys. And I didn't know how to, because I was kind of like, okay, man, well, I'm going to get to unloading these groceries. You have a great day. And he's just standing there in the door. And I used to be really good with kids, but I mean, dude, I haven't had a lot of kids around, especially that age, since my niece. And so it felt really awkward. I wasn't sure what to do. So right next to my door is all my most recent cards I open. I just stack them up and I wait to organize them when I have time. And I'm like hitting like panic mode because I didn't, what am I gonna blurt out? Leave? Like I don't know what to do. So I grab a handful of Minecraft like trading cards. And I'm like, do you like Minecraft? He's like, yeah. And I'm like handing him, I'm like, here, I just have some trading cards for you, bud. And then he's like, I really like Pokemon. So I grab a bunch of Pokemon too. And then I mean, when I say a bunch, like, I mean, like 40 cards or something. Like, nothing big. And I just hand them to him. They're already open. And it worked. He took them and he ran right on away. I closed the door. And that was the end of it for a while. And then later on that week, he and his dad come up to me and he's like, he's got something for you. And it was the like worst drawing I've ever seen, but essentially the best drawing ever because of the sentiment. And it just said thank you. And it was at that point his dad had said, like, to me, this whole moment was an act of desperation where I'm like not really sure what to do or what to say. And I just give him these cards because like what else do I got? And so it worked, but his dad goes, dude, that made his entire day. And well, man, Kevin, how does that story make you feel?
This is one of those stories that I don't know if it can get much better. So I'm thinking, such warm feelings right now, knowing that if I were in his shoes as a young kid and a stranger, handed me a plethora, 40 is a lot. I can't even count to 40 at that age, perhaps. So to get that many cards of Pokemon that I just confessed that I love to you, I would be absolutely head over heels. I'd be through the moon and back, or whatever the term is. So yeah, man, I'm all about it.
Well, I'm glad that we were able to share some sentiment. I really didn't like think of it much. Like I didn't understand how much he would like that, but I'm glad on the WoW scale, saying 10 being over the moon and 1 being buried 10 feet under. What would you rate this as a WoW factor?
We're gonna crest the top. We're gonna go with a 9.
All right. Well, you heard it, folks. This is a 9, and so with a 9, we'll. Oh, wait, I forget. I'm sorry. I always try to skip this, but my call to action to you guys is to try to make someone else's day, man. I was surprised that I felt really good. I got a lot of good feelings when his dad told me, like, dude, you made this kid's day. And so I realized, and, you learn this again and again through life. You get your reminders that kind of kindness is just a gift that keeps on giving, a little bit of charity. So you heard it here. It's a 9, so I'm going to call that a wow.
It is a wow, Michael. It's a wow. Great work. Keeping the trading card community thriving.
Yeah. I get a little break with that, too, because, I decided I wanted to try. This is a segment, but I wasn't always sure. And, dude, when I still have that little picture on my fridge, because when I got it, I didn't know what else to say again, so I just said, yeah, man, I'm going to put this on my fridge. But I did, and it was good, man. It was a good whole set of everything, man. I was shocked, because I'm like, this kid's probably, I don't know. He's like, these cards are like, it's not going to be, I'm thinking like, that wouldn't be the cards he would like anyway, and who collects Minecraft, and no, that kid wasn't worried about none of that, dude.
Yeah,
But
that's so
moving on
cool.
to a different topic of sharing the hobby, I wanted to talk about unexpected trading cards. And so here's how this rolled out. I was prepping for the podcast. This was earlier today at work. I was just thinking about things, thinking about questions for my segment, my Sejum's murder segment, and I went to one of my coworkers and I was like, "Hey, do you collect anything? Like weird or interesting? I don't know. I know people do collect stuff, and you might not even think of it as a collection." And she's like, "I collect these resin animals," and she picks up this like little like duck, like just a little tiny. I would have said plastic, but she said they're little resin ducks. And I'm like, okay, all right, okay. And I was like, where do you get them? And she's like, you go to raves and they pass them out. So every time I go, I get some and I just keep them. And I was like, well, that's cool. And she's kind of like, well, why do you want to know? Why are you asking me this? I don't really talk to her about, especially about like, what do you collect? Like, that's a weird approach for me. I normally just go to work to get work done. And then she says, well, I tell her it's for my podcast that I like trading cards and I do this with my friend and it's about trading cards. And she goes, oh, did you know that I help design trading cards? And I work at an eye clinic, by the way. Like, I'm a technician there. So this is another eye. Like, I would have never seen this coming. She goes, I help artists, musical artists, create trading cards that they give away at raves. And it just blew my freaking mind, dude.
What?
Like, there's rave trading cards, and I think it's a thing, like, people will get them autographed, and it's just, it's not competitive, it's not, the same popularity, but when you go to the concert, my sister used to go to a bunch of them, and she would take her ticket stubs and take a Polaroid and pin it up on a cork board, and this is kind of like the same thing, except you're remembering the music. You meet the artist, he signs your trading card. It's his advertisement, right? Like he put the art or a logo and designed the card. And it just blew me away because I'm like, she showed me. She opened up her phone and I'm like, dude, this whole time, I've brought it up to you. I'm like, dude, I hate when I try to talk about my hobby and share and people put it down or make me feel bad, even if they don't mean it, or maybe I'm being sensitive, but it feels bad. And here's this person where I bring it up and they're designing trading cards. It's like, bro, that's so close to home for me. It's been right there all along, and I just never knew to ask. And so I did go through a little bit of a rabbit hole, a very mini one, where I looked up, I just eBayed it, and I found that this has been a thing. Like, there was some Fleetwood Mac trading card from, like, the 1980s, and one of the songs, I think, it said, I think it was called, like, Tell Me Lies. I think it's the one that, it literally said, it's like, tell me lies, tell me sweet little lies. It's a really old song, but, I mean, this has been happening, because they have a, it wasn't worth a lot, but it's up there. And then,
Wow.
I do have news. I know I'm monopolizing some conversation here, but
No, go for it.
I've been waiting to tell you about this. It's a bit of a bummer, but also it's like it's exciting at the same time, and I'll tell you why. The Halo card came in the mail today. So I opened up a card of Halo. Don't collect Upper Deck really anything or sports cars. I just was
Open up a pack.
in a Target. Yeah, just spontaneous. And I scratched off. I pulled a card with a scratch off, and it said, like, congrats, you won. Now, I've had I guess I said I was bummed, and that's because it's not serialized. So, on the website, you go to it, it says what you won, you look it up, it says one of 300 serialized cards. Or it says one of 299, and it's under the tab serialized. So I'm thinking I'm getting a numbered card, and it's not. And I look it up, and apparently whatever I bought, similar to how Magic does collector boosters versus other ones, I guess I had one of the other ones with the
lower
lesser
tier one. Yeah.
Yep. And so it's one of those. And so I'm basically, my initial attitude, I'm like, I hate this. And I don't mean that, but I am like super bummed. Like I don't really like this, but I would say I'm very strong with language. I would say I hate this, and I'm like kind of just bummed. And so I felt that way, and I'm like letting it settle. And I'm like, no, it's still a cool card. Like, I'm happy I got it. It was a whole new experience. It does look cool. It's kind of shaped like a Cortana chip. And I got, this is special to me. And it's Grunt Major, it was Halo Combat Evolved, one of the original enemies, man. It's like the first one you ever see. So I did find like some balance, but then I tell you what, it kind of took a turn for the better because as I'm getting ready for the podcast, I have it out, so I would remember to maybe bring it up. And if I hold this puppy up, so the card itself is shaped like a Cortana chip, but there is let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It looks like 8 sides, so an octagon. And it's an octagon with like this blue plastic. It's in the center of the card. That's what the grunt is on. But it's really hard to see if you don't, mind my French. It looks like shit. And so when I held it up, it's against the white light of my screen. And I realized when you do that, it makes it like this, like, it's not three-dimensional, but it's a nice little hologram. You know what I mean? It's a shining image of a grunt major. And it's like, that's why this card is cool. I didn't realize that. Because when I'm holding it against my black, desktop.
Yeah,
you can't see any detail. It's kind of like a shabby card. Like, if this was in a binder, dude, I'm gonna have to put, like, it's rough. This belongs, like, held up against some light or on display or something.
cool.
So I was bummed that it wasn't serialized because that was a big deal to me. But now I know, and it's still really cool. I mean, it's a really cool card. I'm only bummed because I expected the serialized one. So
Right.
outside of that, it's awesome. But I had to take it down a notch.
Wow. I mean, is that a card that you'd be able to play in a deck, or is that more of like just like the collectible aspect where they know that
this
there's
is
those
definitely
unique properties?
collectible because there's no even writing or nothing. But I don't know if this is a competitive game or not. I am. It might just be trading. Because Upper Deck does baseball. I didn't look. That Diablo
Right.
one you have it probably doesn't have stats or nothing. I think they're just like mementos, like
Yeah.
just branded trading cards.
Yep. No stats on this one. Just Diablo doesn't need any stats.
I forgot you had it within reach.
Oh yeah, he's on display
Yeah, I
proudly.
said that, and you were like, "Yeah, I've got it here.
Showcasing
Let me confirm."
literally in arm's reach. Yeah, he's my prized trophy from the gin.
Well, how do you feel about those like rave cards, dude? Because
Crazy.
I started ranting, but yeah, dude.
Remember, like you and I had brought it up recently. Like it'd be wild if comedians had trading cards for these popular comedians because they sell at arenas. They're popular in themselves, and you just keep going down the thought of like, well, if baseball players and basketball players and other sports players have trading cards, why wouldn't these entertainers, maybe not like rappers or singers, but now that you spring up, at music festivals, they were giving out Fleetwood Mac trading cards. Well, what other trading cards are out there? I mean, we've gone all the way back to the 1800s, and you've already now begun this really neat collection of finding these antique old cards. So it just has you wondering, like, what else is out there? I just find all this stuff to be fascinating.
Because I could have never, dude. If you were talking about that, like, yeah, they could give them out at raves. In my head, it's like, yeah, that's a cool thought. But there's no way they're giving out trading cards at raves. I mean, get real. But apparently they are. It's like, that's just wild. I think it's they're just easy, dude. Dude, think of how many, because we're talking about selling bulk, thousands of cards. They take up like no space. They're in a box. You can put them in a shoe box and have thousands of them, and they'd be safe under the bed. And I think that's the appeal part of it, because you get a memory, a memento, all the feeling attached.
Yeah, the collectability there's depth to it.
Yeah, it's just right there. It's easy to store and easy to display.
Yeah. And as we move away from tangible tickets at festivals, and people, more and more so now have these weird, ever shifting QR codes, that, like every 3 seconds or whatever, they change until you walk up to the, card reader, and then they verify that's a real ticket. There's people still are looking to collect something. So I find it like, it makes sense that there are trading cards in that atmosphere, because now with there being less ticket stubs, you can fill that void with something that maybe the artist had help designing. And like you were saying, if they're going to sign off on their trading card, like that's a cool memento in itself. Probably nothing I would be trading away or giving away in bulk for spring cleaning. But very, very much a collectible memento that brings you back to that moment, and, puts you in that atmosphere of the concert, and, shares,
Yeah.
brings back all
Well,
those emotions.
that's really the point, though, isn't it? That if you had it, you're like, I wouldn't be giving it away, and it's that like insane, like it creates value to the
Collectability, yeah.
individual.
Right.
Yeah, and it's like I can't give this away. This was at rave, and I met this one person, and I had that fun thing, and it's like all of a sudden this piece of paper is valuable, and that's just it's so neat.
Crazy, man. I love it.
Well, are you perhaps ready to enter the adventure that is our last segment?
I am sitting down, Michael.
All right, well, let's see if I can pull this tab up here. Let's see. Okay. Well, some have called it the greatest segment in the universe, but I call it Sejum's Murder. It's a game with points, prizes, power, and progression. So let me take you on another journey. You're in a deep slumber again, and you begin to slip further down than you have ever been before. Suddenly your dream breaks, and you see within your own mind's eye, in a chasm of space and time, the home of the card clerk. That sweet, warm smelling air, the red sand swirling, and the familiar porcelain-faced genie floating in front of you. You hear, "Welcome back. I'm the card clerk. I'm here to give you chances at progression towards prizes and powers. Choose your path for today." As he holds out his hands, you see another 3 choices: a yellow fluffy duck, a white shining plate mail, and a live red cricket. Which will you choose?
I would like to go with the cricket.
The live red cricket. Okay. All right, this is gonna be a good one. I have like 3 different styles, and this is the third, which you have not done yet. So, let's see how this. Suddenly, your tunnel vision returns, and the card clerk is drifting further and further away. Suddenly, you're in a brand new place. Everything seems very loud and distorted. You're hearing deep whomps and loud sounds, and you look up to see this land so much larger than you. And as you look to your left and your right and right in front are these cricket men. These red-tinted crickets. They all look at you, and you hear them say, "Run." Suddenly they run as the hair begins to stand on your back. You don't know why, but you follow them, and you hear thud, thud, thud of a giant exterminator. The crickets run under a flower pot, and you dive under for 25 points. There was a Japanese PSA 10 Magic the Gathering card from the 2025 Aether Drift set. It's a showcase fracture foil, and it's sold on eBay today. For how much? Is it A, $500, B, $250, C, $450, or D, $350?
We are going with D, 350.
Wow! 25 points earned. D is the correct answer. I was wondering if you would get this, but I thought I made these numbers tight enough you would not. And it's Japanese, it makes it all weird too, I felt, but you nailed it. So, as you hear the exterminator grumble, "Where are these crickets?" he doesn't find you, and as he begins to lift the pot, you run again. This time, in between the crevice of 3 cement bricks, the crickets all holding hands, grabbing you, pulling you with them. You're all in it together. As you're hiding in the crevice, the butcher, he's also a butcher. The exterminator's still looking for you. 25 points. Edge of Eternities. Magic the Gathering Space Fantasy set is scheduled for an August 1st release. This set, it's not the first set, it's not the last set, but it is it A, 106th? Is it B, the 105th? Is it C, the 109th? Or is it D, the 108th Magic the Gathering set?
I am just going to lock in 105th.
All right. Well, the butcher grumbles, "I see you now," and his foot comes smashing down, and it gets one of your cricket friends. The other two, in teary-eyed, begin to sprint again, and you, following suit, dive under the last thing you can see. It's a shrub, thinking maybe you'll get away this time. You hear this maniac laughing, this giant being trying to rid his territory of these bugs. And I ask you now, worth 25 points. There is a Katy Perry signed and autographed 6x8-inch photo. Famous American singer, pop star, PSA slabbed. Now, important to note, this is not a graded picture. It's not graded for quality. It is authenticated to know that it is Katy Perry's real DNA certified signature. It's sold today for, is it A, $60, B, $180, C, $120, or D, $960?
Jeez. Not graded. Oh my gosh. Why would you throw out the most ludicrous number?
Yeah, dude, you're getting into the tough ones now.
180 sounded so appealing, but now I'm confused. I'm just gonna lock in 180 final.
The exterminator yells. He's looking desperately for these hiding crickets, knowing they're in the bush. He lifts them. Will he find you? And as you wonder, you see these thick, giant, meaty fingers just wrap and squeeze one of your cricket friends.
Oh boy.
You begin to sprint away. 2 members lost of your group. The answer to this question was $120.
Okay.
That was a really tough one. I think last time we did like Zippo lighters, but you did well to pick within the right range. So 960 was to throw you off. I'm glad it tempted you, just like the this or that, but you made it. So as you run with your last friend, he looks at you and he goes, "I have a plan." You climb a brick wall, the home of this giant. Atop it, a whole pallet of bricks, precariously balanced. So much so, maybe a cricket could push it off. Your final question. Magic the Gathering. There is an enchantment. It's called Riddle Form. The card does the following. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you may you may have this enchantment become a 3/3 Sphinx creature with flying, in addition to its other types until the end of turn. It also has an ability for 2 colorless plus 1 blue to scry 1. Look at the top card of your library, you may put that card on the bottom. This is riddle form. Would you like to hear that again?
Sure. Why not?
So an enchantment, there's no tricks here. I just want to make sure it's for me
Okay.
this is complicated, but it's an enchantment. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you may have this enchantment become a 3/3 Sphinx creature with flying in addition to its other types until the end of turn. You can also spend 2 mana plus a blue mana to scry 1. The card is called Riddle Form. The question, and must be answered exactly, is what is the mana cost of this card?
As in the colorless and lands,
Yep, it's got to be perfect.
I would say 2 colorless, 2 islands final.
Well, for this one, this riddle form, and there were several with the name Riddle in them. That's how I found this card. I was looking for a Magic the Gathering Riddle, and I settled for this. It is a 1 colorless and 1 island. So, very close, but this one may be a cheap addition to add to one of your blue decks. However, as you fail to answer this question correctly, it changes our world. You and the cricket, plan in mind, begin to push the giant pallet of bricks, but alas, what are you thinking? You are but a cricket and a tiny little man in a giant world. The bricks don't budge, and the exterminator looks up and tosses a rock right into the other cricket. He breaks his leg, and you and him decide to split. He runs away limping, hopefully to escape this exterminator, and you, before you know it, before you can be caught by this maniac, begin to have your vision fade. The tunnel reappears, and boom, you are back in front of the card clerk. And he says, and boy, let me count this up, because you did some work here. You got 2 correct. He says, you have earned 50 points previously, and today you have earned another 50 points. Now, shoot, we had an oopsie previously, and I believe the 50 points I added. So you earned, I think, 25 the first episode. I didn't give them to you second episode because I said $20 and I meant to say 200, and you caught that, and you would have been, you would have had a chance at the correct answer, but I never gave it to you. So you earned them today, totaling 75 points of vigor.
I'm rolling in points over here.
Yeah, and so that's all today. Your grand total. So it's the 50 you earned, the 25 I robbed from you, and then 25 you had earned previously, totaling 100 points. Once you reach 2,000 points, Kevin, you will unlock a grand prize of 1 Magic the Gathering booster box. But your journey, it is not over yet, because today you have earned more vigor points. 75 to be precise. Use them wisely. Hold on, I gotta get a timer out for this one. As a recap, Kevin, previously, when you awoke from your deep slumber, you were filled with vigor. You began running through a jungle, sprinting over the underbrush, tree from tree, in a strange place smelling of rotten eggs with hot, humid air. You came up to a clearing with a red apple hanging from a vine. It was glowing with power, about to fall. You chose not to take the apple, and it rotted. That was where we left off, where you ran out of vigor, you collapsed from exhaustion, but now you awake full of more vigor than you have ever had before. So now, as I get this stopwatch right.
Okay.
You are awake, but your timer is ticking down. You're in the middle of the jungle, sweating, the rotted apple next to you, the green plants all around you, and you begin to sprint. As you keep running, you are looking desperately for something to do with all of this energy. When you hear a rustling, your feet, they plant, you slide, and you look down to your left at a rustling bush. From it, a small creature pops out from the tree roots. It is a little crow. It looks around. As it emerges, its ribs are showing. It seems uninjured, but it appears to be looking for something, gazing left and right and through the brush, flicking up rotten leaves, looking for something. You don't know what's happening, but you can see this crow is filled with determination. The crow takes a step forward. He looks up at you, looks into your hand, and he collapses in famine. Do you have anything to offer the crow?
I offer him the liquids that I scooped up from the crickets from earlier.
You attempt to offer liquids to the crow, but they do no good. He collapses, faints in famine, and he is dead.
Gosh.
You have unlocked an achievement. Crow Killer. Congratulations. You're 75 vigor has run out as 75 seconds have run off the clock. Your vision, I take it back. You collapse and you go into a deep, deep sleep. And that for today is the end of our segment, Sejum's Murder.
Yeah. What a fun one.
Yeah. Tell me how. So we had. I know we generally wrap them, but previously we did what was the other one called? You really liked it with the original genie, the Sejum Satisfaction.
Oh yeah.
Yep. And then we started, or I tried a new one, and I didn't do a very good job, but it was like a map-based RPG. And it was a really, I felt like a bad experience for you. And there were so many things that were not thought out well. And after you told me how you liked Sejum Satisfaction, I tried to rework it. How you feeling about this so far?
I love it. I don't know where it's going, and it's exciting. So I'm fully immersed in it each time. And what do you propose? Like, what do you do? I'm like, what do? I have options here. I can choose. It's exciting, though. It is.
I'm excited to, hopefully I can continue crafting this in a way you like it. I have some thought, some challenges for next episode. I also, after I think I got that time about right, I want to give you about that time and then kind of resolve whatever the next step was. But I totally said I was starting that timer and then did not click it. So I have no idea, how well I did with that. Oh. But I'm having fun too, man. For everybody listening, next week, tune in, or next podcast, we're going to have a topic of the best way to play Arena, based on my experience as a newbie, and things I wish I would have done, things I could do better. I'm going to share that with you, so if you want to take on that challenge of Arena, you can do so with this new knowledge, or share your experience against mine. So stay tuned for that.
Awesome. Well, it was fun, Michael, and we will wrap this one up. So everybody, thanks again for joining us, and we will catch you all next time.